Let's talk about taxes. It's one of those things, right? We all deal with them, we all have opinions on them, but how much do we really get about the thinking behind them? Well, we're going to dive in and unpack the core ideas that make up our tax systems.
So this really gets to the heart of it. Do we just see taxes as something we have to put up with, a necessary evil? Or are they actually something much more? Could they be a powerful tool for shaping the world we live in? Keep that question in mind because we're going to explore it from all angles.
Okay, so before we can figure out if taxes are a tool, we need to agree on what they actually are. Let's start with the absolute foundation, the official definition. It might seem a little dry, but trust me, everything else builds on this.
Let's break that down. There are two words here that are absolutely key. First, compulsory. That just means it's not optional, it's the law. And second, public expenditure. This is so important. The money is meant to finance all the things that a society shares, from roads and schools to healthcare and defense.
And it's not just about raising money, not by a long shot. As you can see here, taxes are this multi-purpose tool. Yeah, they generate revenue, that's the big one, but they also work to redistribute income, hopefully making things a bit fairer. They can be used to stabilize a shaky economy, to guide resources towards certain goals, and even to protect industries right here at home. It's a real balancing act.
So if you're going to build something this powerful, you can't just wing it. You need a solid blueprint, right? A good tax system isn't just made up on the fly, it actually follows a set of foundational principles that people have been thinking about for a very long time.
And you can't talk about this stuff without mentioning the man himself, the economist Adam Smith. Way back in his famous book, The Wealth of Nations, he laid out what he called the canons of taxation. These were his fundamental rules for how to create a system that's actually effective and fair.
And here they are. These 4 ideas look simple, but they are incredibly powerful. Smith basically said a good tax system has to be fair, the rules have to be clear and predictable, it should be convenient for people to actually pay, and it shouldn't cost a fortune to collect. I mean, just think about certainty. Imagine if the rules were so confusing, nobody knew what they owed. It would be total chaos. Getting this balance right is everything.
Let's zoom in on that first one, equity. Because what does fair really mean in this context? Well, it's kind of like two sides of the same coin. On one side, you have horizontal equity. That's the simple idea that people with the same income should pay the same amount in taxes. Makes perfect sense. But then you have vertical equity, which says that people with a greater ability to pay, your higher earners, should actually pay a larger share of their income. This is the whole idea behind a progressive tax system.
Of course, the world has changed a ton since Adam Smith's day, so modern thinkers have added a few more principles to his blueprint. A tax system today also needs to be productive, meaning it actually brings in enough money to get the job done. It's got to be flexible, so it can change when the economy changes. It should be simple enough that people can understand it without hiring a team of lawyers. And it needs diversity, so the government isn't relying on just one source of income.
Okay, so we've got the blueprint for a good tax system. Now, how do governments actually use it? This is where we shift from theory into practice, and we start to see taxes as a really active tool that governments use to manage the economy.
The official name for this is fiscal policy. But really, you can just think of it as the government's economic playbook. It's all about them deciding when to raise or lower taxes and when to spend more or less money, all in an effort to steer the economy in the right direction.
And this chart lays out the 2 main plays in that book. So, let's say the economy is in a recession. The government might use an expansionary policy. They'll cut taxes or increase spending to get more money flowing and boost demand. But if the problem is the opposite, like runaway inflation, they'll pull out the contractionary policy. Raise taxes, cut spending, and try to cool things down. It's basically the gas pedal and the brake for the entire economy.
Okay, so these big picture government policies have some very, very real consequences for everyday life. So let's bring this all the way down from the national level to your wallet and see how tax policy directly shapes the choices we all make.
And this is where it gets personal. I mean, think about it. Ever wonder why cigarettes are so expensive? It's not an accident. High taxes are put on them, specifically to discourage smoking. On the flip side, why do governments give you a tax credit for putting solar panels on your roof? They're using tax incentives to encourage that behavior. It just goes to show you, taxes aren't just about collecting money. They're a powerful way to nudge society in a certain direction.
Which brings us to the world of business. Now, you might think it's pretty straightforward. A company makes a profit and the government takes a slice of that profit. But it's all about how you define profit. As we're about to see, the profit a company reports to Wall Street can be a very different number from the one they report to the taxman.
Now, this is a really, really important distinction.
The accounting profit is what a company shows its investors. It's based on accounting rules, and its purpose is to show the overall financial health of the business. But the taxable profit is a whole different beast. It's based strictly on tax law, and the big difference usually comes down to what expenses a company is allowed to deduct.
So what kind of stuff gets the boot? Well, here are a few classic examples. A company can't deduct fines or penalties, because that would be like the government helping you pay for breaking the law, right? Personal expenses are out too, because the tax is on the business, not the owner's lifestyle. It's all about making sure the profit that gets taxed is purely from legitimate business activities.
So, we've come full circle. We've seen that taxes are so much more than just a bill. They're a really complex tool, built on a blueprint of principles like fairness and efficiency. We know, in theory, what a good tax system is supposed to look like, which leaves us with one final, and maybe the most important question. How well does the system we actually live with measure up to that blueprint?